to Friday. I remember my mother playing tennis in the early days and later playing bridge and mahjong. We, my brother and I, walked to school during the elementary days and rode bicycles to Woodlawn Lake swimming pool in the summers. There, I had my first job at 10, teaching swimming for the Red Cross to young children. My sister was born that September of that year, so we moved to another house my father had built closer to the Jewish neighborhood and Jefferson High School, and a whole new era for me. At 14, I worked Thursday nights and Saturdays in a shoe store. It was downtown, and I was doing manual style counts and keeping track of the PMs for the salesmen. The PMs were the 5 and 10 cent commission that they would get for selling bows and shoe polish with the sale. Chuck's waving his head, he knows what a PM is. After a year, I changed stores, and they moved me upstairs, and I cashiered. Then, at 15, I discovered BBG, the neighborhood girls, and Jewish boys. Was lucky enough to be president of BBG and sweetheart of AZA the same next year. And then I met Les. He was the older brother of one of the AZAs, and he asked me out to a basketball game on a school night. It took some convincing on my part to get an okay from my mother. 2 years later, we were married on Labor Day weekend, and as Leah in the Bible was blessed, I was also blessed to have 3 amazing boys, Brad, Greg, and Rick. And since I always wanted a girl, was blessed again with 3 beautiful daughters, Susan, Teresa, and Joan, who had to leave, well, because I have also 5 wonderful granddaughters, and, well, 2 are here, 3 were, and that's Hannah and Rebecca, and Catherine, who was here, but she had to leave to be in a fashion show, and so that's where Joan went, was to be with her daughter in the fashion show. So, it's still fashion, right? But I also have a granddaughter from a grandson, and he also has a son. So I have 2 great-grandchildren from my baby. When Brad and Greg were under 3, Les and I opened a neighborhood dress shop. This was 1957. So the first week we called each other Mr. Wilk, Mrs. Wilk. Well, by the 3rd week it was, honey, where is this? And honey, where did you put that? But Rick was born on the Sunday a poolside fashion show was scheduled. So maybe that association prompted him to go into retail from college to present. The store was only a gap stop for Les, since he always wanted to be a dress designer. So between Christmas and New Year's, 1963, we moved to Dallas, Richardson actually. I did not work for the first time. So, bridge and mahjong, here I come. Also joined the neighborhood women, but missed the industry. So I worked markets 3 days, 5 times a year for Les's employer, Ann Murray, which later became Terry Costa. Some men get the 7-year itch. Les got the 5-year itch, but only job related, lucky for me. So, in 1968, we opened Les Wilk, a designer label, manufacturing everything from shirtwaists, which is a very tailored daytime dress, to sequins and feathers. Our first factory was an old Mapsco building on Industrial Boulevard. We moved 3 times, each time to a larger facility. I was his fit model, so I spent my working days dressed in partially designed garments, doing payroll, paying bills, calculating cutting tickets, ordering fabric. In other words, I was his backstage wife, for any of you who remember that radio program. The label and the man had a very high profile. We dressed Miss Texas for Miss America, and several other state pageant entries, as well as Miss Wool, Miss Cotton, and Miss Mohair. Then in 1980, our rapport with the latter three, Cotton, Wool, and Mohair, resulted in TWU in Denton hiring Les to be designer in residence, the first ever, teaching fashion merchandising and design as well as the history of fashion. We packed and we moved to Denton, and I only worked markets for a friend of ours from New York. Next came the real change. I was on my own. Still in the garment industry, but not with Les. I was commuting to the Dallas Apparel Mart and working for Albert Nichon. I had never traveled before, and now was on the road 8 months of the year doing trunk shows. There's that trunk again. And in between was in full charge of 5 Dallas and 5 Chicago markets annually. The boys were married and on their own. I had July and December off and started going to Europe with my mother, who had moved to Houston in 1964. What adventures we had. It was a great life. But like all good things, it eventually had to end. In 1991, Nippon closed the showroom and I was out of a job. Briefly, a friend worked as a receptionist for a plastic reconstructive surgeon, Steve Bird, and after his wife Lisa hired me, I started working for them. It was a complete new outlook / career, because in this environment, the most important decision of the day was not what to wear. The clerical portion and working with the patients opened a whole new genre. It was an interesting, rewarding, and sometimes challenging job. Lisa and Dr. Bird are a compassionate, thoughtful, and humanitarian team, and it was a pleasure to work for them for 20 years. In November 1995, Les died and left a lifetime void in all of us. He lived to meet his grandson and 2 of his granddaughters. In June 1997, my mother died. But enough sad news. Flash forward. It's now 2002, and there are 3 funerals and a wedding. Paul and I visit over deli trays and piles of cookies. And he asked me out in August, and the following April 12th, we were married. We're having a beautiful journey, literally and spiritually. And thanks to Paul's presence at Beth Torah, I have made friends with a lot of very special people. All of you, plus many more. And I want to thank each of you for coming and celebrating this very, very exceptional honor with all of us. And Beth Torah is truly a family, and I'm blessed to be part of it. Thank you.